Right, today is the 24th of March 2019. I think we have time to study two suttas today from volume 47, that is 47.9 and 47.10. Let us begin our study by looking at SD 47.9. What is your page there you have? 93, no? Ūmi Bhaya Sutta. That is the discourse on the danger of waves. Okay, Ūmi means waves. Bhaya has got two senses. Normally Bhaya means fear. Okay? It can also mean danger. In fact, in our local Malay, we have the word Bahaya, which comes from the same word meaning danger. Yeah? So, there was once we were traveling with this monk in a car in Malaysia, and every time we pass by a signboard, he says, "Oh, is there a monastery ahead?" And then we're wondering why he said that, and because there is a sign at certain spots on the highway. You have this sign in Malay. You say "awas." Awas means be careful, but awas in Sinhalese means monastery from awasa, okay, which is Pali anyway. Of course, normally it'd be awas bahaya, okay, watch out, danger. No? So that of course got quite a complicated meaning there. So here, bahaya I've translated as danger, the danger of waves. This is only the one aspect of the teaching, the key idea. So the title of the sutta comes from that set of four parables. And this is from A4.122. Anguttara, the book of fours. I mean, you can see the hint, you already know there are four things there, set of four teachings. Now, this set of teachings should be quite old because it is also found in a longer sutta. You see at the bottom of the page, under the footnote, note 1, I think, it says this sutta recurs almost verbatim, but with a few differences in the Chatuma Sutta, M67. There you have a long sutta where the Buddha is talking about why monks should really behave in a monkly way, and at the end of it the Buddha talks about the same thing. These are four dangers that a monastic, that a monk or a nun should watch out against. So the theme is how renunciation can fail. So what are the dangers to renunciance, to monkhood, nunhood, and so on. And of course, although this is special teaching for monks and nuns, you find there is something for us here too. All right, let's look at page 95. Translation, is it the same page as yours? 94. Ūmi Bhaya Sutta, the discourse on the danger of waves. A4.122. Bhikshus, there are these four dangers or fears to be expected when one goes down into the water. What are the four? The danger of waves, the danger of crocodiles, the danger of whirlpools, and the danger of river dolphins. Okay. Now, very quickly, waves, of course, if you go in the small boat, waves will turn over the boat, so it's very dangerous in that sense. The crocodiles, they devour people. Whirlpools will suck in, the boat. Now, of course, you may wonder, if we're talking about rivers here, how can there be whirlpools? Well, we're talking about huge rivers, like the Ganges River, it's like a sea, so you may see whirlpools. Or you can also talk about this, actually we're talking about the ocean, so it's possible. Yeah? And number 4 is river dolphins. Now this one is very interesting. The translation was problematic at one time. Well, I'll come to it in a moment when we come to this point. Right? And these bhikshus are the 4 dangers to be expected by those who go down into the waters. Right? So here again you see the Buddha starting with something familiar, something which the Indians of those times, of course we today also are familiar with all these things. Then the Buddha kind of changes gear, switches his tenor. Even so, right, bhikshus, there are these 4 dangers to be expected by a certain son of family who has left the household life for homelessness out of faith in this Dhamma, Vinaya, teaching and discipline. Right? So these are 4 things. There are also 4 dangers that a newly ordained renunciant should watch out for. What are the 4? They are the danger of waves, the danger of crocodiles, the danger of whirlpools, and the danger of river dolphins. Now notice again the structure here. First, the Buddha states very clearly, this is what I'm going to teach. There are 4 things here. These are the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he says, okay, you know about all these things. This is found in the world. Then in the second part, he starts, even so. So now he's going to link it into something new, something which we are not familiar with, something which needs to be known, which needs to be practiced. And then he reminds us again what are the list of things we should remember so that we can connect these teachings. Right? So from the known, we go into the unknown. Right? From what we know in the world to what we know that will free us from the world. So this is the thesis, if you like a summary. And then you can see after that, I've already given the subtitles there, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Everything is given, laid out very nicely. Because here, you will notice this sutta doesn't use the mirror method. Okay, this one is quite direct. Okay, it just goes one straight through. All right. Section 3. This is the first item, all right? And what bhikshus is the danger or fear of waves. Here bhikshus, a certain son of family, goes forth out of faith from the household life into homelessness, thinking, I am beset by birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, bodily pains, mental pains and despair, beset by suffering, overcome by suffering. Perhaps an ending of this whole mass of suffering could be known. So this section 5 tells us of the purpose of renouncing, for becoming a monk or a nun, to get out of the suffering of the world by attaining nirvana. Okay? For laymen, you can say how we can minimize our suffering, or more generally, how we can be truly happy, in other words. All right, that's another way of looking at it. Perhaps an ending of this whole mass of suffering could be known. Then fellow renunciants, colleagues in the holy life, advise and instruct him thus. Okay, so here we're talking about a monastic, monk or nun. So once he becomes a monk or a nun, he goes for training, in other words. All right? So the training is this. So notice it says, fellow renunciants, colleagues in the holy lives, right? So even some of his own brother monks or sister nuns will tell him, you should move forward this way. You should walk back or step back this way. You should look forward this way. You should look around in this way. And that you should bend down in this way. You should stretch up in this way. You should carry your upper robe, outer robe, and bow this way. All right? Now there's a problem here. All the sutta says this way. We don't know what it is, right? But for a monastic, if you live in a monastery, you understand, right? So basically, for example, I remember when I was in a monastery in Bangkok. It's one of those 200-year-old royal monasteries. So they're very strict about decorum. So the novice teacher would say, okay, when you sit, you must sit up straight, okay, like a Buddha statue. You can relax, yes, but upright, okay? And when there are lay people around, you have to look down in front of you, right? Of course, we like to say 45 degrees down. And when you go on arms round again, you walk 1 foot forward at a time, okay? You don't rush, right? Except we don't walk cat style. We don't walk like the catwalk. You know those beauty contests. They put 1 foot in front of the other. See? In the suttas, they do say 1 foot in front of the others, but not that style. It means stepping. It's more like a goose step, right? 1 foot in front of that, mindfully. And you look down in front, okay? Of course, occasionally you look up to see where you are, but otherwise, that's the way we walk. So there is this decorum, and people will be watching the monks and the nuns. So in other words, they're also objects of faith. When people see, they feel peaceful, they feel calm. They are living symbols of renunciation. So this is what all this teaching means, right? So even when the monks are receiving their alms food, there is decorum. The monks will hold the bowl at the level more or less either of the heart level or just slightly lower. The top part will more or less be on the heart level. And then he will look into the bowl. He will not look anywhere else, you know. He will open the cover, that means it's ready. So these are all like synchronized, you know. You open the cover, then the person offering will know, they'll put the food in and will look. And once the person puts the palms together, he will close the bowl. And then maybe the person will bow down. So you've got to give time, and you will know that the donor has finished, and then you slowly walk off, all right? So all these are passed down from elder monk to junior monk to novices and so on, all right? But look at 7. But it occurs to him thus: formerly, while in our household life, we advised and instructed others. But now, these who seem to be like but sons, like but grandsons to us, think they would advise and instruct us, right? Angry and offended, he gives up the training and returns to the low life. Now, this is especially the problem with older people when they ordain, those who are, say, past 40, past 60. And that is provided they are really going for the training, then they'll be told what to do, and then you find they can get upset because some of these monks have started very young, so they are much younger than this newly ordained monk. So in terms of monastic years, the one who is young but he has more monastic years must be respected by the older monk who has less monastic years. So this is one of the situations. So here the Buddha basically is saying this is what happens when you get ordained. You have to go for training, and sometimes the people who train you can be younger than you. So if you are not ready, you start thinking at home, say, oh, I was like this, you know. So this is where they are still thinking of their layman state, in other words. So they become angry and they give up the training. 10. The danger of waves. Indeed, bhikshus, this is the name for anger and annoyance. Okay, so there you see the Buddha said anger and waves. They refer to us getting angry and upset when we are trained in the Dhamma way, how to walk properly, how to be calm, and so on. So this is the first. This bhikshus is called the danger of waves. So it's the first danger.
Is it annoyance instead of despair?
Yeah, it should be offended is a better word. Upayasa usually translated as despair, but the context here is not so much despair. it's more like showing anger. So there are times when certain words, they have another aspect to the word. So you have to see the context of it, okay? So apparently here, offended is a better term because it's unlikely he will be despairing in this case. The context is such that he's angry. He feels offended because it's where, when I was in the family, I'm the lord of the house and so on. So offended is a better translation here, all right? This is called contextual translation. Yeah? All right. Now, second section, the danger of crocodiles, kumbila. Okay. And what bhikshus is the danger of fear of crocodiles? Now, here bhikshus, a certain son of family, goes forth out of faith from holy household life into homelessness, thinking, all right, so this is where there is suffering, and how do I get out of suffering? Okay, you can see the italicized. All these are repeated. So he wants to let go of suffering. He becomes a monk. Then he goes for training. Section 15 tells you about the training. Then fellow renunciants, colleagues in the holy life, advise and instruct him thus: this can be eaten by you. This should not be eaten by you. This can be consumed by you. This should not be consumed by you. Now here there are 4 lines. These are 4 ways food are taken. Okay, eaten, consumed, tasted, drunk. Okay, eaten means the food is chewed, solid food. Consumed means kind of little soft, like maybe tofu, something like that. All right, and then tasted means maybe like curry, sauce, maybe. Okay, and then drunk, of course, is soup. So these are the 4 ways the Indians kind of understand how food is taken: consumed, rough biting. Eaten rather. There's chewing, and then consumed, and then tasted, drunk. Okay. I should have given the Pali words here. No? So, in other words, this new monk is told this is the way you should eat, and this is the way you should not do it. For example, you should take a handful of food. Okay, in those days they used their hand, and don't open your mouth until the food touches the mouth. Then you put it in gently, not too much, and then mindfully chew, right, and then swallow, and only next handful, a little bit. And then also it's still okay, you mix your food together and so on, all right? So this is what is told. 16, you should eat what is allowable, you should not eat what is not allowable. You should consume what is allowable, you should not consume what is not allowable. And this goes for what is to be tasted, what is to be drunk. Certain things can be drunk, certain things cannot be drunk, so there are restrictions. So there you are. You see the first part, second part, they are talking about the same thing. The first one is what should be taken, what should not be taken. Second part is what is allowable, what is not allowable. Now, what's the difference between these 2 passages, 15 and 16? Now, the first one, what should be eaten and should not be eaten, is you can say, for example, certain kinds of food you cannot keep too long. A monk is not supposed to store food, for example. That's one of the rules, right? And you can't just take any food from anywhere, right? People should offer it to you and so on. Now, in section 16, on page, what page is your page? Yeah? 96. Allowable, not allowable, right? So these are some things which lay people can offer or should not offer. For example, lay people should not offer fresh meat, for example. All right, and so what's allowable, what's not allowable? Yeah. And then 17 talks about the right time. Okay, you should eat at the right time. You should not eat at the wrong time. And the same thing applies to consume food, taste food, drink food. So these are the 4 kinds of food or 4 modes of eating. Wrong time is after midday when the sun has already crossed the meridian, right, to the next morning when sun rises, right? Now, the right time to eat is dawn. Technically, in the Buddha's time, defined as if you stand outside on a normal day, that you can see the lines on your hand in the forest, right, in the open air, right? So notice there is light, okay? But here again, the rules are kind of general. See, because from what I understand, for example, in Myanmar, I think the monks have their breakfast quite early, around 4 a.m. So that is kind of adjust the rules a bit. Again, the right time is you can say sunrise to noon, but it doesn't mean the monks eat throughout that period. Usually, the Buddha will only take 1 meal a day. Okay, but it is allowable, for example, the monks to take breakfast, right, sunrise, and then they can take one meal before noon, or we call it lunch, right? So that's another way of eating. So either they just take 1 meal, 1 proper meal, or they take breakfast and lunch. So these are 2 ways. What I understand is normally the forest monks will just observe the 1 meal a day rule. The city monks will take breakfast and then lunch. No? So this is about timing. Okay. So again here, timing, noon is not 12 o'clock of the clock. It is the noon of the sun above the head. No? For example, in Malaysia and Singapore, I think noon here is around 1, I think, because there's some adjustment of the time. No? 18. So it occurs to him, that is this new monk, formerly while in our household state, we ate what we wish. We did not eat what we did not wish, right? So we consume, we tasted, we drank whatever we like, and if we don't like, we don't eat it. And there's no such thing as allowable or not allowable, right? And there's no right time, wrong time, right? So in other words, this person who renounced the world, he's not really ready to renounce. And look at 22. So this new monk thinks, now when the faithful masters give me exquisite food, hot and soft, during the day at the wrong time, it seems as if they've put a gag over my mouth, right? So in other words, if he's received any kind of food outside, say afternoon, he cannot take it. So he says, wow, it's like I have a gag over my mouth. My mouth has been covered up, all right? So he's not happy. You know? So he gives up the training and returns to the low life, right? So this is where they do not really know what being a monk is about. That is why nowadays you find, especially in the good monasteries, if someone wants to get ordained, the general rule is this person will stay a while as a layman in that monastery and work as a layman. Okay? Sometimes they even go to a stage called anagarika. In other words, they keep the 8 precepts. That means they don't take food afternoon. So they live like that for a while, taking care of the monks and doing the chores of the monastery or center. And then once the monks deem that this person is ready to be ordained, then he gets ordained. So he goes through this kind of this phase of understudy, if you like. Right, then, so this monk gives up the training, right? 24. This bhikshu is called one who, out of the danger of crocodiles, has given up the training and returned to the low life, right? Now, you can also read it as out of the fear of crocodiles, right? In other words, this person fears all these things. Fear, I can't get this nice food, I can't eat anytime I want, right? So he gives up the training The danger of crocodiles, indeed, bhikshus, this is a name for belly filling or gluttony. Okay, so here the Buddha is quite stern. He says, if you become a monk or a nun and you think you're going to get nice food, then it's not the case, right? Definitely not for the forest monks. No? And this bhikshus is called the danger of crocodiles. All right. Now, you may say, this may be true in the Buddha's time, this may be true in the forest monasteries even of today, but in urban setups like Malaysia, Singapore, Australia even, there's no such thing as a forest monastery really, because people can drive, they have cars. And I remember staying in a so-called forest monastery, and certain days, not every day though, you have people bringing food. You have this really huge spread of food on the table, and that particular day I remember all the food that I ever liked, at least 10 kinds, they're all there present in one place. Never before in my life has this happened. So you can imagine how deep the faith of this, and of course how wealthy the donors are. They're mostly Thais, and they brought all this food. And then the monks come first, then they select what they want, they put into their bowl. And then it comes the layman's turn. And there's always enough for everyone, because the monks take all that they need, then the lay people, the lay workers of the temple take what they want, and then the visitors, there's still enough for the visitors. So imagine, there's quite a lot of food nowadays. So although you have this kind of situation today, it's different from, say, the traditional forest monastery or even in the suttas. The meaning is that you must be frugal. And you take what is enough for you. You can see there's a lot, but it doesn't mean you should overeat. Okay? All right, now we come to number 3, the danger of whirlpools, A4.122 27. And what bhikshus is the danger of fear of whirlpools? Here bhikshus, now everything is repeated here. There's this person, he's suffering in the world, and he thought he wants to become a monk and overcome his suffering. And then he goes forth as a monk, he goes for training. But then, section 30, then as one gone forth, having dressed himself in the morning, taking bowl and robe, he enters a village or market town for alms. With body unguarded, with speech unguarded, with mindfulness unestablished, with faculties unrestrained. There he sees a house lord or house lord's son, endowed and replete with the 5 cords of sense pleasures, reveling in them. Right? So here, this monk, he forgets all the rules. Remember, a monk, once he goes into, we say, among houses, he goes out there, arms round. He must look down and walk very mindfully, collects his food, he goes back. Okay? Even when not collecting food, he would do that. So there is no such thing as a monk tourist, in other words, right? The contradiction of terms. So, but here the monk is not mindful, so he goes into among houses, he looks around wherever he likes, and he sees all these young people enjoying themselves, enjoying life, pleasure the senses in the marketplace, in the town. So what happens then? Section 32. It occurs to him thus: formerly, while in our household state, we were endowed and replete with the 5 cords of sense pleasures, reveling in them. Now, my family has wealth. I can enjoy my wealth and as well as make merit. He gives up the training and returns to the low life. Right? So this is the third danger the Buddha is warning against the young monks. He says, well, if you're not mindful, then you're reminded of your family life, and then you say, oh, you feel you miss those things. And then there is this rationalization, says, oh, I come from a rich family, we got money, we don't have to renounce the world, we can perform meritorious deeds, build monasteries, build temples, So he gives up the training. So this is the third warning, 37. The danger of whirlpools. Indeed, bhikshus, this is the name for the 5 cords of sense pleasures. So here the Buddha is warning the young monks, the new monks, not to get lost, falling back, recalling all the pleasures they had enjoyed as a lay person in their houses. So when they forget their monk state, then they will give it up. So this is the third one. Okay. Now we come to the last one, number 4. The danger of river dolphins, Susuka Bhaya. Okay, this is where many of the previous translators, they have problem with this word Susuka. They're not sure what it is. So some of them translated as like crocodiles or alligators and so on, or even sharks. But you may get sharks in the ocean, in the sea, yes. But here I think the sutta also talks about the Ganges rivers, so these huge rivers, and you don't get sharks in such rivers. But if you look carefully, this word Susuka or Shushuka in Sanskrit, they refer to river dolphins. Now, this is where when we translate texts like this, you have to know the Indian background also. So you have to do research in the geography, the flora and fauna of India, the river Ganges. Now, if you look at the river Ganges, you do see river dolphins. Now, why is river dolphin a better translation here? Now, this sutta, this section of the sutta talks about the dangers of women to monks, or rather, the women are not the dangers, the way the monks see women. Okay, so I would say river dolphins is a better translation because it's dolphins. They're almost human from far away, and they will jump up the water. They're very beautiful creatures, and they're also capable of knocking into boats and turning boats if you're not careful. So, for that reason, I think river dolphins is much a better translation. Right? There are other explanations given in the notes you can look up. Okay, section 39. And what bhikshus is the danger of river dolphins? Okay, here again the starting is the same. The Buddha says a certain person feels there is a lot of suffering in the world. He wants to give it up and find, get out of the suffering. He becomes a monk. But 43, with body unguarded, with speech unguarded, with mindfulness unestablished, with faculties unrestrained, there meaning among houses, in the city, in the town, or even in the monastery sometimes, he sees a woman scantily clothed, scantily dressed. On account of his mind being corrupted by lust, he gives up the training and returns to the low life, right? So here again the Buddha is warning against lack of training, in other words. So renunciation means you really let go of the world, right? So this is the fourth warning. You, especially a young man, is reminded of the world, of women, of family, of pleasure, and then he gives up the training. So this is called the danger of river dolphins. So you can see here, these dolphins are beautiful mammals, right? So you can say the dolphin represents a woman in this parable. So here, 45, the Buddha says the monk still has lust, and the lust works on him, and he gives up the training. 46. This bhikshus is called one who, out of the danger of river dolphins, has given up the training and returned to the low life. The danger of river dolphins, indeed, bhikshus, this is the name for women. Okay? So here it's not women are bad. The Buddha is saying, when the monk is not ready, this is the danger that he faces. Okay, so these are the 4 dangers that a young person who has renounced the world should watch out for, right? So once again, we're reminded the purpose of renunciation is to prepare the monk to let go of his body, of the senses, to attain a higher level of freedom, that is mental freedom. Here, on a deeper level, the meaning is that we are capable of some very powerful experiences in life, especially as a monk. The mind has got this very wonderful ability to bring us very deep joy. But the mind's power is dissipated in 5 ways through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, right? So if you properly train yourself without being distracted, you can overcome the 5 cords of the 5 senses. Then you are able to focus fully and directly into the mind, and that's when you can attain jhanas, and with that you experience a higher level of joy. Because the danger here is sexuality will hold you back in the world. Okay, so sexuality involves the body, okay, and families, children, and so on, and it keeps you in the world. Whereas in the case of the monk and the nun, they have given up this kind of life, so they train to attain a higher level of pleasure which is non-physical, beyond the body. And this is a kind of pleasure that is more permanent, if you like, we can put it that way. It's more joyful, and it helps you to let go of the world, to be at peace with yourself, so that you're able to attain nirvana. So this is what the training is about, in other words. It's not whether the world is bad, or taking good food is bad, or women are bad. It's not about such things. It's the training that you have vowed to take up, and you should keep to it. Right? So this is the reminder for the renunciants. So this is the Ūmi Bhaya Sutta.